What team are you on? Or better yet, whose team are you on? The answer to that question is important, and you need to think about it. What team are you on? Go ahead and write that down. Next, I'm going to ask you what's the difference between a team and a department? Are they the same thing, or are they two different things? What's the difference between a team and a department? How would you answer that? Who's responsible for setting up teams? Is management responsible for setting up teams? Is the executive team responsible for setting up teams? And is a team the same as a department, so no teams are created because departments are the default? What's the value of people? Obviously, all people are valuable, but what's the value to the organization and the people within that organization? What's the expectation of them? So let's work on that and let's answer these. All companies set a strategy and a lot of management decisions are made. How those happen and also what those decisions are doesn't matter, because we're going to talk about and lead with what's execution and executing in order to be successful. So all companies have strategies and they make management decisions. It boils down to their definition of execution. So how do they execute? Well, for the most part, what they do is they say we need results. Results are important to all companies, or so that perception is. When you look at results, those results are usually delegated to departments and initiatives are set up in order to be successful. Those departments are run by leaders and managers in doing what's best for the company. That usually means that managers follow the tried and true management principles of delegating, doing, dropping, delaying, or looking at the data in order to determine what's best for the company. In this lens, the bias is operational excellence, where working on the business and making it efficient as possible is the norm. Also, the value of management is found in the relationships that managers have with each other, the functional expertise of the manager and how they perform technically, as well as within the norms and rules of the company, as well as the perceived tenure as a way to look at skills as a proxy for skills, and also for their expectation of leadership. So understanding relationships, functional expertise, and tenure, as well as the focus on operational excellence, the leadership of the organization focuses on managing people. Those people are individual contributors. Some departments have teams within those, but for this particular exercise, we're not going to call those teams. We're going to call them individual contributors who work on projects. Those departments work on projects, they have initiatives, and they work together to get those projects done. Sometimes that's in the form of tasks, sometimes that's in the form of project work, sometimes that's in relation to a response from the executive team. Working within the department, individuals get together, they have meetings, and they coordinate. And coordination is key. Sometimes their work is done collaboratively, but for the most part, their department's asked to produce something and then send it on so that others can engage. This is a departmental view of work that focuses on achieving results. Now, results are okay, but what ends up happening is individuals show up to meetings to get stuff done. Leaders show up in order to do what's best for the company. They also have an operational bias to just get stuff done. So there's a lot of doing, delegating, looking at the data, and also expecting individual contributors to just get it done. And so the value of the departmental view then is in getting stuff done. But what if the question to execution came down to driving outcomes? Now, we're going to keep these separate on purpose, and these are not the same thing. An outcome is an ongoing impact to a very specific set of stakeholders over time and to a specific measure. Driving those outcomes in the current state of most companies is often interpreted through the departmental lens on the left. In other words, the data can prove that somebody achieved something. But for this case, in this instance, we're going to say that driving specific outcomes comes to the strategy. And the strategy, in order for it to be achieved, requires specific outcomes of specific people, not necessarily specific departments. So there's a difference between department and team in this situation. Teams are set up to achieve specific outcomes, regardless of where they sit on the org chart. Teams are also managed by a team leader with specific skills in mind. Teams are assembled for short-term work in order to achieve the outcome and then can be recalled or reinstated at a time that's right. They're not organized by an org chart. They're organized by capability. They're not organized by available people. They're organized by specific skills that need to be achieved. In this type of an environment, this teaming environment, goals are critical, and goals must be achieved in order for the outcome to be attained. Team leaders work hard to make sure that their best people are achieving those types of outcomes. They work hard to create the right environment where everybody's strengths can be leveraged. In that type of teaming environment, the team becomes the production unit. Much like a factory in the Industrial Revolution was the production unit that produced raw materials and converted raw materials into parts, teams become the modern factory, producing knowledge work together in a way that's efficient, effective, and of high quality. And again, it doesn't matter what department they're in, because the team is the organizing unit. It's the factory. In that view, team leaders are focused on getting the best out of their people to achieve results. To do that, they don't focus on D's, they focus on I's. Those I's are inclusion, immersion in the work to make sure that reality is tackled, invigorating the team to keep them motivated and on task, and also pursuing the goal and the outcome, looking at the impact of the people involved as well as the impact to the next team down the value chain, and then also bringing in insights that are real-time, based in reality, and also changes to conditions. Those insights, being real-time, can also then be projected with the right type of an approach to be more forward-leaning, not in the rearview mirror like data is. So instead of delegating, they include. Instead of just doing it, they immerse themselves in the reality. Instead of dropping, they invigorate. Instead of delaying, they look for the impact. And instead of relying on data, they rely on insight. With that in mind, their bias of a team is on innovation and accelerating innovation, not becoming operationally excellent to drive process, but looking for innovations to bring to the next team or to the company, again, with that outcome in mind. The value of the leader then is in their perspective, their ability to produce value and create. The leader and the team work together as a production unit to bring together those perspectives, to produce value, and to be creative. That becomes the currency and the gears of the modern factory to achieve that outcome. Oftentimes, the innovation happens and people aren't exactly sure how they got there. Also, sometimes they can actually head a little bit off course, off the project plan, and in fact, they might not even have a project plan. That arrangement of capabilities and skills is focused on individual producers. So this then begs the question back to our three points we made earlier when we started. Who is responsible for setting up teams? In this case, teams are different than departments. Departments are not the way in which modern work actually, in the future of modern work, will produce results. Departments are an org chart that's grounded in division of labor, breaking work up into individual parts, and not necessarily pursuing an outcome based on the customer's experience or market conditions. What's the difference between a team and a department? That's the difference between a team and a department. The responsibility for setting up teams then falls to the executive leadership team, who can assign the resources to achieve the outcomes desired. Most organizations don't have that flexibility and agility to be able to reconfigure themselves based on inputs from the market because they're beholden to the organizational chart. That's a whole separate topic, but that can be addressed with the right approach. The last question is, what's the value of people? In the departmental view, the value of people is headcount. And the inference here is the more headcount you have, the more power that you have. Or the more headcount you have, the more productive you are. That's not necessarily the case in a teaming environment. The value of people, when you consider them as working together in a modern factory to produce the right kind of outcome together, they're able to bring their skills and their capabilities, much like a talent pool or a high-performing team, such as a football team, baseball team, soccer team, volleyball team, basketball team. These teams work together to achieve the result. And then they disband and go to the next game. So that's the value of people in that view. Now, what happens if people are asked to do specific knowledge work that's creative and create something new? Here you have an interesting dilemma, because if people are asked to create something new, which is a highly innovative exercise that requires people to bring perspectives in, produce value, and be creative, and these types of activities are required, and you put that person in a department where siloed work is is the environment in which they work within, and the functional expertise trumps value production, or tenure trumps creativity, that creates a tough condition for that person who's asked to create something new from scratch on a blank piece of paper, oftentimes in a environment that does not allow for that type of collaboration on the right side. So what happens and how does that look? Well, that's called Stone's condition. Stone's condition exists when knowledge work is required. Teaming is also required because knowledge work is collaborative and highly cross-functional. Stone's condition happens within a team, not within an org chart. When one person is expected to perform at a higher level, or they're unable to leverage a team to achieve success, Stone's condition becomes a factor. With traditional departments, challenges at work are directed at management or handled by management, or they become an HR issue. Performance is often hidden in siloed work because work is managed top-down. So let me give you these two scenarios that are written up. First of all, you have a person in a team. That person has an ability to perform, and they're also having an expectation placed upon them. If the team leader is saying, look, we have a standard of excellence that is required of you, and the individual is not able to perform to that level, there's a gap. They're unable to meet that standard of excellence of the team. Now, again, this does not happen in a department. This is a separate issue. This is only in a teaming expectation. That teaming expectation can be implied or it can be specifically stated. But that teaming expectation comes from knowledge work that's highly cross-functional. If knowledge work is highly cross-functional, teaming is required. So if the person cannot be high-performing in a team, they're going to build a coalition of low performers, they're going to undermine management, and they're going to leave while staying. In other words, they're going to make management fill that gap if they don't. That's the negative side. They can also learn new skills, seek coaching and mentoring, and also engage in and ask for other stretch opportunities to fill that gap. So this is the negative coping. On the right side, you have a low teaming expectation where there is no expectation for teaming because it's departmental work and you just do what's asked. If that person expects to have a team, is used to working in a team, and understands that in knowledge work that teaming is required, they're going to do a heroic effort to cope with the low teaming environment and also the high expectation they have for the work. Because these folks are typically higher performing, they will seek to compensate and look for help and or take on that work. The negative side of that is they could strategically delay outcomes, which means they understand what the outcome is. So they're going to try to either delay it or they're going to ignore the ask or delay the outcome. Or if the outcome is poorly stated and a bunch of random activities are asked because the person might be, the manager might be more task-oriented and results-oriented, they could strategically delay that as well. They could also lower their expectations. In other words, perform at half percent and take the rest of the week off, 50% and take the rest of the week off. or they could leave and move to a company. I don't the positive side of this, because these are the negative coping mechanisms. The positive side of this is they can work with their manager, state their needs, and also try to coach up and manage up. However, that's often limited impact. If these two conditions do not resolve themselves, so if the person cannot close the gap and these negative activities continue to be called out, and they can't meet the standard of excellence, they'll start exhibiting the three levels of Stone's condition. The first level is confusion. They don't understand. They don't know why this is happening to them. Second is aggravation. They get aggravated. They start lashing out. And then level 3 is petrification, where they freeze up. And I'll explain that here in a second. On this side, the teaming expectation is low, and they're engaging in a heroic effort. First is they're going to be confused as to why the teaming isn't happening. Then they're going to start getting aggravated, and if they're a high performer, they're going to internalize that aggravation. And then level 3 is they won't be able to do it. They'll be, again, achieve petrification. So let's take a look at what those 3 levels are. Confusion looks like, hey, you know what? You didn't tell me that was the case before. I don't think you understand what I'm saying. And why are we doing it this way? Again, that happens in both scenarios on the previous slide. Level 2 is aggravation, saying things, look, I already sent this to you. I already did that. I thought we already did these things. I thought we already talked about it. I already gave that to you. And then level 3 is petrification, where they want to continue, but they say things like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this alone. I don't know what's wrong. And in some cases, their brain actually locks up, where they stare at the screen and they can't even write and engage because of the stress involved in achieving level 3. And that locking up is petrification. The challenge with Stone's condition is it's either really hard to spot these things unless management is tuned in on it. So they need to have an understanding of how to manage a team in a teaming environment. And also, if it's not treated early, it can really reach really bad proportions here, either caused by management in this case, by management here of having a high expectation and they're not able to perform. Those 3 levels become worse and worse, or in this case, again, caused by management, where the team expectation is not there to meet the individual's performance. The management gap there causes these 3 levels. So when you look at what that is, if level 1 is left unchecked, they're going to be losing confidence, losing motivation, and they're going to escalate to aggravation. If they hit aggravation and that's left unchecked, they're going to get dissenting and they're going to start lashing out. That can be subtly to other team members and eventually to management, and then eventually to public settings. And then finally, petrification. They can achieve what I call full brain lock. And what that is they feel like they're basically buried alive. And that creates a physiological response that actually could lead to people checking into the hospital, which I have seen that before. And then obviously leaving the company. So Stone's condition is a condition that I made up, but it is a real condition. The reason why it's called Stone condition is it's because of the brain lock, and also there's a background story of this that I can share at another time. So what does this look like? So if these aspects are happening, somebody's in phase 1, 2, or 3 of Stone's condition. If you start hearing these things, they're also experiencing some Stone's condition symptoms. The key here is to understand that that exists. The key is to also understand that there's a difference between teams and departments. Also, in knowledge work today, understanding that the production unit, or the ability to produce results, is at a team level, and the teams are not the same thing as departments. If the department is the same thing as team, creating a teaming environment across departments is also difficult due to operationally excellent bias that exists across departments. Also because the relationships, functional expertise, and tenure requirements of a good manager also get in the way. So a lot of friction can happen between departments. So that's the quick overview. and I look forward to hearing back from you. Thanks.